Hi, this is Nancy Ellen with the Crafty Yarn Barn. Today I'm going to show you how to make these cute little Santa Christmas ear warmers. Aren't they darling? Before we move on, be sure to support our channel and hit that subscribe, hit that like button, and select that bell notification so you'll get notified every time we come out with a new video. If you go to the comment section down below, I have a link to our website that we just opened up. If you want to purchase this pattern as a support to our channel, I'll have a link there to our website, and you can go there and buy the written pattern with all the instructions for you to be able to have and save to make this in the future. The entire project is made with front post double crochet stitch, and that's what has given nice ribbed looking pattern. This project can be made for anyone. All you need to know is the head circumference. I'm going to put up a chart shortly, and it's going to show you from a newborn size all the way to an adult what the expected head circumference is, and that is what you're going to consider when you make your foundation chain when you start your project. This one I made for a teenager, and I also made a matching one for her mom. And you can see the difference in the length. Her mom has a lot of hair, so I added just another stitch or two for that. But you can see what the difference is. This one is for a 15-year-old, and I made it 19 inches. And then I made this one beneath for the adult large is 21 inches. And you can see the difference. But they're both super cute. They're both matching. The width on the ear warmer is 3.5 inches wide to 4 inches. All of these that you make are going to be that width. You can add extra rows of the different colors if you want to bring it up to a 4-inch or even a 4.5 inch. That's totally up to you. You have that creative license to do that. But these are going to measure 3.5 inches wide. And the length, as I told you, all depends upon the age and the head size of the person that you're going to make it for. Now let's talk just a second about the rows. How many rows of each color? So 1 row of white, I did 3 rows of red, 2 rows of black, 3 rows of red again, and 1 row of white. And then of course the buckle is made out of gold. If you don't have gold, you can get some yellow or whatever you want, whatever looks good for you. These are the items that I'm going to use for the project. I've got 3 bundles of yarn here, and those are all Super Saver Red Heart. It's a worsted weight. It's a size 4, and it calls for a size I hook. And I got red, I got black, I got white, and then I have this Simply Soft by Karen. And the label on it, it's a size 4 weighted yarn as well. It calls for an H hook, but I'm actually going to use a smaller hook. And the color on this is called Bone. It looks like a gold color. I'm going to use that for the buckle. Scissors, I have a yarn needle. You're definitely going to need to sew in some tails on this project. So I got a yarn needle, scissors. I have row markers, 5.25 hook, and then I don't know if you'll be able to see it on this. This is such a old needle that I have. It's a size G hook. Just trust me, I've used this. Gosh, I've had this for 10 years. I'm very attached to this hook apparently. I've used it so much it's rubbed off the markings on it, but it is a size G hook. I'm going to use that for the buckle. And let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that you need to do is to decide how big you need to make your foundation chain. So look at the chart that I have on the screen and make your decision. How big do you want to make your ear warmers? I'm making mine for a preteen. She's 12 to 13 years old. I'm going to crochet a foundation chain of 18 inches long. So you need to look at the chart to decide how big you want to make your ear warmers. Then you'll know how big that you need to create your foundation chain. First thing we need to do is create our slip knot, wrap the yarn around our fingers, and stick that yarn tail right into that loop and pull it through. And we're going to put that loop you just made on our hook and pull that yarn tail and it'll slide right on. Don't make it too tight. We need to start our chain, so we're going to yarn over and pull our yarn through the loop on the hook, and that's chain 1, chain 2, and then you go ahead and keep creating your foundation chain for the length that you are desiring for your ear warmers. And then I'll see you here back in just a minute, and I'll show you the next step to do after you get your foundation chain made. My foundation chain, I've measured it. It is 18 inches long. That's how long I wanted to make it for the head circumference. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to join the end of my foundation chain here to the very first chain that I made, so we can make a loop, a big circle, and we're going to crochet in the round. So it's important that your foundation chain does not get twisted up, so your project comes out nice and neat. So how I like to do it, this is what I like to do, my technique. Let me show you what I like to do. I like to hold my foundation chain. I like to just run my finger on it to make sure it's not twisted, and that you have the front of your chain facing you. And then when I get to the very end, I stick my hook right into that last foundation chain. It's the first one that I made. And then I come back, make sure that that foundation chain is not twisted or anything, and then I put it right back on my hook, where when it's facing you, you're seeing the front of your chain, not the back. The front, you know it's the front of it if the stitches look like a V. If you turn it over and it's the back, see how it looks there? That white is hard to see in that camera and that lighting, isn't it? But you have little ridges and humps on it. The front of your chain is where it looks like V's, and that's what you're wanting to crochet into. So what we need to do now is take that loop that's on your hook, and you're going to pull that loop through that first chain that you had on your foundation. It's like a slip stitch. You're going to pull it right through there, and that connects that first chain that you made when you started to the very last chain. Okay, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to chain 3. So chain 1, chain 2, and chain 3. Next step is we're going to do double crochet into that very first, after you did your chain 3, right into that next foundation chain, you're going to do a double crochet. So yarn over and stick that through the top of that foundation chain, yarn over and pull it through. You got 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull it through the first 2 loops, then yarn over and pull it through the next 2 loops. That's a double crochet. And this is actually, when we go all the way around our foundation chain, we'll end up right here, and this is right where we're going to join our yarn to end that first round. So I'm going to put a stitch marker in it, and the top of that stitch looks just like a V. You got 2 pieces of yarn, so when we come back around, right here is where we're going to slip stitch and join off. So what you need to do is you're going to put double crochets into every chain on your foundation and work it all the way around. And I'll see you back here in just a few minutes once you get double crochets into every foundation chain, and I will show you how to end round 1 and join it off and start round 2. Okay, I've double crocheted all the way around. Now I'm back where I started, and I just crocheted a double crochet into the very last chain. The next chain, if you can see here where I'm pointing my needle at, that's that chain 3 post where I slip stitch and join that foundation. I don't want to go into that chain. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is remove that yarn marker, and right where that yarn marker is, that's where we're going to join our round and close it off. So put our hook in there, yarn over and pull it through, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull it through the hook loop that's on my hook, and that slip stitch joined that round together. Now I'm going to end my white. I'm going to cut a pretty good size tail, maybe 5 inches, to give myself a little bit of room to sew those tails in. I'm going to yarn over and pull my hook through the loop, and then I'm just going to pull it all the way through and give it a tug and see how it just closes off that stitch. And later we're going to come back and sew in our tails. Okay, now we're ready to join our red. If you want to take this, and if you have the person that you're making it for nearby, you can put it on their head and make sure it fits. And it should fit perfectly if you pick the right size of foundation chain. So now let's start our red. And I'm going to do me a slip knot. Create a slip knot and give me a pretty good tail where I can sew it in later. And put that on my hook and draw it up. Now I'm going to start off my next color. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just go down a little ways, maybe 2 inches or so, and start there. I don't want to start where I just ended that round. And I'll show you more about that why here in just a minute. I really don't want to be able to see that that join and where that stitch is. So anyway, go over here about 2 inches down and pick one of your loops and stick your crochet hook right into the top of that stitch where you see the 2 pieces of yarn there. And I'm going to put that red onto my hook and draw it through. Now I'm going to drop that tail, get my working yarn here, drop that tail to the side, and now I'm going to do chain 3. So chain 1, chain 2, and chain 3. Now this is our front post double crochet. So what we're going to do that, you see this next post? The post is this right here of the double crochet that's down here. We're not going to go in the top of the stitch up here. We're going to yarn over and we're going to put our hook behind it and come out on top and grab our yarn and pull it through. So we're going to crochet right into behind, you see. So we're going to take our hook, yarn over, go right into that, and we're going to go behind it. Let me show you one more time. Yarn over, stick that hook back there behind it, and then we're going to yarn over and pull our yarn through where it wraps around it. It's not going into the stitch, it's wrapping around it. So yarn over and pull it through 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull it through the next 2 loops. That is where we're going to join off when we come back around. So I'm going to mark it. It's the top of that double crochet that you just made. That's where we're going to join off. And I'll show you a few more times just to make sure you get the hang of it. We're going to yarn over, put our hook right behind that post of that double crochet below. We're going to yarn over and pull it through, then yarn over and pull it through 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull it through the last 2 loops. So this next double crochet, we're going to yarn over and go right behind it, and then come back around front, grab that yarn and pull it through, and then yarn over and pull it through the first 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull it through the next 2 loops. This is going to go pretty quick because it's so easy of feeling how to go back behind that stitch. So yarn over and pull it through, and here we go. We're coming right here up to where we joined our yarn together. So we're going to go right over that and just keep going. That yarn tail, oops, I messed up. That yarn tail, we're just going to sew those in later, so don't worry about them. Just let them hang there and just go on, bypass it. And just keep going all the way around. Front post double crochet. You just did a new stitch here, and keep going. Once you make your way all the way around back here, do this last post and I'll show you how to join it together and start our next round. I've crocheted all the way around for round 1. I have 1 post left, so let me do that one. Do my little double crochet here around the front post double crochet. And here I'm about to join off round 1. And you see where my yarn marker is? This right here is our chain 3 that we made to start. And then this was the first double crochet that I made. I'm going to go into the top of the double crochet. I do not want to attach into this chain 3 right here. So I'm going to take my stitch marker off, and that's why I use stitch markers, so I don't have to guess. It's pretty plain. I can do it quick and move on. So go right into the top of that stitch. I'm going to yarn over and pull my hook through that stitch and to the stitch that's on my hook, leaving on one left. And see, I've joined together my first round. And how you start round 2 with the same color is all you do is chain 3. So 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to start our second round. Now you can see right here where our chain 3 is back here. We're not going to go into that. That's going to be hidden in our project. As you crochet up, it's going to come together, and that chain 3 back there is going to be hidden. So we don't want to crochet around that. Our post that we want to crochet around is this first one right here on the next row beneath. And we're going to do our double crochet, and we're just going to keep going all the way back around, and we're going to join off just the same way that we did round 2, right into the top of that first double crochet right here that you made, and that will be where we join. We don't join into the chain 3. We're going to do 3 rows of red. We already did 1 row. You need to do 2 more, and then you'll join your black just the same way that you joined your red to the white. So 1 row of white, 3 rows of red, 2 rows of black, 3 more rows of red, and then 1 row of white, and that will be your ear warmers. So once you get completed with your project, come back. I'll show you how to fasten off and to make that belt buckle and sew in your tails. At the very end of my last round using the white, and I want to show you something. I thought of just a tip to share with you. So each of these ribs, if you can see every round, it lines up perfectly, and there is a rib that matches from top to bottom in this project. Right here, you can see that this piece, that is your chain 3 of that red. So whenever you come around to do the front post double crochet, you're going to go into only the loops, or excuse me, only the front post of the double crochet. You don't consider that chain 3 a stitch. So I'm going to skip over that, and when I do, I'm going to go over into the next, and when I finish my stitch, what's going to happen is it's going to pull that work together, and it's going to hide that chain 3 in the back of my work. So now you can see where each of those ribs of the double crochet, those rows, line up perfectly. So when I close up my project, those chain 3s are hidden into the work. You don't see them at all. If you happen to go and crochet around those chain 3, what you're doing is going to cause an increase. So your work's not going to be even. So that's something to be careful of and be aware of. And you can see how all of these ribs, they line up perfectly with each other. All right, now we're to the very end. I've crocheted into my last front post for my double crochet on my white. Now I'm going to go into the top of that very first front post double crochet that I made on the row for the white, into the top of that stitch. And I'm going to do a slip stitch. So I'm going to yarn over and pull it through both loops on my hook. I'm going to cut about a 5-inch tail. Then I'm going to yarn over, pull that yarn through all the way, and pull it tight. Now on to sewing in our tails. Fun, joy, joy, joy. I don't like sewing into the tails in. If it's a project that I can take care of that as I'm going, I do that. But this project, that's not something that we were able to do. If you don't have a yarn needle, you can use your crochet hook. All you need to do is put your crochet hook into the stitch that you want to pull your yarn through and grab a hold of it, and you can just pull it through and just work it down that stitch that way and just using your hook and pull it through. I find it so much easier to have a yarn needle and sewing them in. It just makes it so much quicker. And doing that when you happen to have those tails. But I'll do one for you, and then let me go ahead and do a red. It's easier to see. That white is just so bright and kills my eyes. So I know it's bright in the camera. So let me put the yarn onto the hook. And all I do when I'm sewing in my yarn tails is I follow those stitches. I'll go one way for a couple inches, pull it all the way through, and I'll just sew it back and forth, hiding them into the back of those stitches, a couple inches this way, and then I'll just turn around and go back the other way. Let me go back, turn it and go the other way. And then I will just cut my yarn. And that's all it is to it. Just hiding that yarn into the project and making sure it doesn't come loose as you wear it or use it. Alright, and that's it. So it's just going to take you a little bit of time. What I do is I'll pull it just a little bit, snip it off, and then pull my work back, and it gets lost right there in those stitches. So that's just going to take you a little bit of time to do that. And once you get your yarn tails sewed in, come back and I'll show you how to put the buckle on. I finished sewing in all of my tails. Now I'm ready to put the belt buckle on. So what I need now is my yarn darner or my yarn needle, whichever you want to call it. And I've got it's that bone color, looks sort of gold. So this is what I'm going to use for my buckle. So go ahead and get yours. And I'm going to get about a 12 to 15 inch piece of yarn and cut it off. Then I'm going to put that on my yarn needle. And what I'm going to do is sew on hold on, let me get it on the needle. Kind of a little challenging there. This yarn, it's not my favorite. It splits really easily. So I don't like crocheting with it too much. But what I'm going to do is, let me show you the one that I've already got done here. I'm going to sew a little line using what is called a running stitch all around here on my project, the shape of a square. And I'm going to use that to add on double crochet. So let me show you how to do that. I'm going to take my yarn and come in from the back side. First, figure out where you want to put the buckle. This is the back. You can see these were all my chain 3 posts are in the back. So opposite of that, I'm going to make that the front. And I'm going to take my yarn with my yarn needle and decide on where I want to put my buckle. So I'm going to come in from the back side. And I'm going to bring my yarn up and I'm going to pull it through, and I want you to leave a tail about 4 inches long, and then you're going to go right back in, right next to it, and go back in. Pull it all the way down, and then we're going to go about the size of a stitch down to right here, and I'm going to come back up right here and go back in right in the same spot that I started at and pull it through. And you see where that gold is? That's where I'm going to put a double crochet here in just a minute. So I'm going to go down to the next row, the next stitch, and I'm going to come up and back in right where I started, right here, and that's stitch 2. And then I'm going to go to the next stitch and come up and back in, and there's stitch number 3. And then I'm going to come in over here. This is my last one. Come in right here. That's stitch 4, and now I'm going to go up 4 stitches, and then I'm going to come back across and back down. And what that is doing is creating a spot, and I don't like how far down that is, so I'm going to redo it here. There we go. That's where I want it. And now I'm going to come up here and create a stitch. And come in right where I started. And I'm just creating a little foundation where I can put my double crochets. And once I do those, then I'm going to sew them on. So let's just keep going and make a square. And sorry about hearing my son yelling in the background. He's playing his video games. And right there will be my last one. And I'm going to come back right up here where I was. And I'm going to go right across and do 4 stitches there. And another one. And it's called a running stitch in embroidery. If you're curious about knowing that piece of information. Just full of information. Alright, let's see. Now I've outlined that piece of the square. And then now we need to come here. And don't be too tight with it. We don't want it to be too tight because we're going to have to get our crochet hook underneath those stitches. Because we're going to attach our double crochet to those stitches. Oops, pulled that a little too tight. Oops, the camera. Sorry, just Miss Clumsy tonight. Okay. And one more. One more there. Kind of got my little stitch a little too tight. And we come in right there. Alright. Now I'm going to turn it over. And right there where I come together, I'm going to tie it in a little knot so it doesn't come apart. And we'll sew them in here in just a minute. Alright, so I've got the inside outline of my buckle here. So now I'm going to get my smaller crochet hook at a size G hook. I've got my square outline sewed in. So I'm going to get my yarn and I'm going to put it on my hook. I'm going to leave a tail so I can sew it in. Pretty good size tail, as a matter of fact. And because I want to use that to sew it in onto my project. My son is screaming, he's playing Fortnite, so I'm sorry about that. So I'm going to get my hook and put it through that stitch, just like you change colors on the project. Pull it through. Let my yarn tail hang over to the side, and it's a pretty long tail, so I can sew in my project here in a little bit. And you're going to do double crochet all the way around. So first I'm going to chain 3. So chain 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to double crochet, so yarn over, and then I'm going to go right into the same loop that I put my hook through, yarn over and pull it through, and we're going to make our double crochet right here, and that stitch is going to be where we tie off and end this round when we come back around. So I'm going to mark it. We don't want to crochet into the chain 3. We want to go right into the top of that double crochet. So yarn over and go right into the next stitch that you made. Put your hook in there and work it in. There we go. Yarn over and pull it through. Yarn over and pull it through both loops on your hook and make you a double crochet. You're going to yarn over and go into the next stitch. And yarn over and pull it through, double crochet. And right here when you get to the end, that's your last loop, you're going to chain 2, and that's going to be your corner. So chain 1 and chain 2. Then you're going to turn and you're going to go down the side here. Okay? Going to yarn over and we're going to put our hook right into that first loop that we made. Yarn over and pull it through and do a double crochet. And it's a little awkward. I'm trying to hold it for the camera so you can see. It'd be easier if I wasn't trying to film this here. Let me start over on that stitch. So yarn over, pull it through, yarn over and pull it through, and put it through both loops. Got me a double crochet, and then go into the next stitch, yarn over and pull it through. There we go. Yarn over, pull it through, do yourself a double crochet, and you're going to do that all the way around. And when you get to the corner, do your double crochet, chain 2, and then go into the next stitch, and then go all the way around. And once you get that done, I'll show you how to sew on that buckle. Alright, I've made it all the way around and double crocheted into my last stitch. I'm going to take this chain marker, row marker out, and I'm going to slip stitch right to where that was at, just like you do on all the rounds that you've done in your project. Yarn over and pull it through both loops that are on your hook. And I'm going to cut my yarn. I'm going to cut a pretty good sized tail in case I need to use that for sewing anything in. I'm going to yarn over and pull it through that loop on my hook and pull it tight to fasten off. Now, see what we got here? And what we're going to do is we're going to lay this buckle out on our project just like this, and see, with our yarn tails that are really long, we're going to use our needle and we're going to sew right all the way around the outside. And if you feel like you have any spots on the inside of the buckle that you need to tighten up and make look a little bit neater, you can do that right now. And you've got your long yarn tail from where you fastened off, and then your long yarn tail where you started. So you can use those to go around and just sew it in, just like you sew in your other tails. And from there, you'll have a completed project. Nice job, everybody, getting all the way to the end. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and check out our website if you want to buy the written pattern. And thank you so much for tuning in to the Crafty Yarn Barn. You have a wonderful, blessed Christmas and a wonderful, happy New Year.